Okay, so this is my roadmap to energy citizenship initiative, and my name is Ogungbemi Ayomide Titus. I'm a PhD candidate, and I also work as a researcher at the Sustainable Energy Research Center of my university, which is Cyprus International University, and I will be discussing my energy citizenship initiative. So, here is the problem. The problem has been about the management and reduction of organic waste. Here in Nigeria, we have a very large problem of organic waste, and not just here. It also happens, I think, all over. I think it's a global problem. So, and the problem is that most times the farmers in the rural areas, they are not able to get their produce, to the distribution centers, to the city on time. And in the process of this, a lot of their farm produce is being wasted. And this also causes a lot of issues. One is that the decomposition of this organic waste, if it's done, in the absence of oxygen, can lead to, the formation of biomethane, and which fortunately is what the previous presenter, Sam, also had talked about. He's focusing on how we can, capture that biomethane, since we actually need the methane for production of energy. But here I will be presenting a different solution. So the problem is that they are not able to get the goods safely to the market because there is a lack of refrigerated spaces. Oftentimes these farmers, they face a problem of energy access. They have little or no access to electricity, and even if they do have, it's very minimal. It doesn't run 24 hours a day. Maybe they have 2 hours per day. We are talking about the rural and interior areas, the villages. So most of the time they get their farm produce, during the harvest season. The produce comes in bulk. They are trying to ship it to the market, to sell. And then they also have another problem in the way that the roads are not very good. The road infrastructure is bad over here, especially in the rural areas. So the vehicles can't even go there to transport them. And so it causes a lot of troubles for them. So coupled with the lack of electricity access, there are a lot of their farm produce, turned like this, and which increases the cost because they have to raise the current prices to be able to make, some profits, for the farming season and whatever they want to do. So here we see some data from the UN, globally, around 40 to 50% of global food production is wasted, along the global food chain. We are talking about from production up until the restaurant. So from the production, from the farmers, we have some that is being wasted all through the supply chain, even down to, the restaurant, whereby we eat the food and, we don't finish them, we leave them also left over. So throughout the global food chain, about 50%, 40 to 50% of the food that we produce is currently being wasted. So 90% of this food waste end up in landfill, leading to methane release. Also, while we are wasting 50% of our food or 40% of our food, around 25 million people in sub-Saharan Africa, where I come from. Sub-Saharan Africa includes all the region of Africa except from Northern Africa, Egypt and Morocco and Tunisia and the rest. So all the region from the, from the Saharan African, down up to, South Africa. So we see that over 25 million people across that region are, in threat of hunger, over $4 billion of food waste occurs in grains alone per year, in sub-Saharan Africa. And also the food waste occur for a variety of reasons. But however, in Africa, remember I talked earlier that about 40% of our waste, of our food gets wasted. So 60% out of that 40% occurs due to storage issues here in Africa. So where is the situation occurring mostly? Well, it occurs mostly in rural areas. People who are affected by the situation are the farmers who have loss of produce. They put in a lot of effort, take care of their crops, get it up and running. and then only for during the harvest time to see a large portion of it being wasted. So it's very painful for them. City dwellers have to pay more because now we have less food coming into the city, and of course, less demand makes that less supply rather means that the price, gets to go up. Now, everyone also we have the issue of pollution because methane is a very deadly or terrible carbon emission, greenhouse gas emission, more even lethally potent than CO2. So we don't want this getting into our atmosphere. So everyone also pays the price in pollution, and money loss. So why is this situation happen? So there are a variety of reasons which I have listed them here. Also, thanks to ENCLUDE Academy, Binbin, Vanja, and everyone who gave us the template. So we actually had to go, to meet various policy holders and various stakeholders, not just looking at it from one perspective, but we have a multi-role perspective, looking at this. So the first one is that there is a lack of a good transportation network to ensure a fast, safe distribution of organic produce. So the roads are not good, like I said earlier on. Not just that the roads are not good, the cars also, the distribution, the cars that take them, from the rural areas to the city, some of them are not good. Some of them, they have cooling capacity, but it's very low. Some of them don't even have at all, but as far as, it leaves the farmers and they are okay with that. And also, I'm using Nigeria as a case. So Nigeria is a very vast, land, from one tail end to the other, from the north to the south, takes almost about 5 days journey, by road. So it's a very far, large stretch of land. So getting it from the north to the south and everywhere, it's difficult. Then coupled with a bad road network. So we have lack of electricity access also, and the refrigerated spaces. So even in the rural areas, many of the farmers complain that, they cannot store their produce. And even when they get to store their produce, they have to pay, a large chunks of money for refrigerated spaces because they don't have. And some of the people who have, like, companies that run these refrigerated spaces, they take payment from the farmers, which also add to their cost. And if the farmers cannot pay, sometimes they lose their crops, they lose their harvest. And sometimes some farmers even pay, they pay, later. Not everyone has the money to pay up front. Some pay, say, okay, I'm putting my produce here, just give me some time, let me sell them, I'll pay you back. And, some of them don't get the opportunity. So it's really kind of a sorry situation for them there. So we also have lack of access to waste collection. Remember, we are talking about why there's a wastage of organic produce. So we have lack of access to waste collection in the city. So after the food is being eaten, and sometimes, maybe let's say there's a degradation of farm produce, collecting that waste also is a problem. So many of them just end up in landfills, in one corner, everyone is dumping them there. And then maybe there's incineration, setting fire on it, and lots of issues. Another one also is inadequate public awareness as to recycling, separation of waste, and waste disposal. This was from the municipal perspective. They complained, that the cities, many of them, they don't know about recycling, that we could actually use this waste. We could separate them, we could dispose them. Also, there was another complaint of inadequate government waste disposal policy on commercial and industrial facilities. So this was also from the citizenry when I brought the previous question to them. Many of them were like, it's not me, the commercial and the industrial people, they release more of this waste, commercial, but, the government doesn't really do anything about them. Then there is lack of follow-up in terms of the government to enforce the policies that are already in place. So this was from another shareholder, I talked to the university professor over here, and he said, look, it's not that we don't have the policies. We have the policies, but the government cannot put them in place. So inadequate waste disposal services and low budgeting from the municipality. This was when I discussed, with the waste disposal people themselves, and they complain that, the municipal has very little budget. So generally, from what I see, there's a lack of a clear framework of responsibility. Who is responsible for what? Who is responsible for handling community waste? Is it the city or local government? It's really, being a problem here. General complacency of the public to deal with communal waste, as far as it's not in my backyard, it's not my problem. So it's someone else's problem. So we have this as what I would say, the total reason why, or majority of the reason why we have that kind of a huge waste disposal problem. So sorry, who has the power to change the situation? So sorry, I don't know if you can hear me because
Yep, we hear you well.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I thought that was maybe because I can't really see anyone now. Okay, so who has the power to change the situation? So first, the innovators. So this will deal with the people who are, you know, researchers and also private, private companies. You know, they are the people. Some of them who have the power to change the situation. So first, they can use organic waste to produce energy like biogas and biofuels, as Sam discussed. Also improving energy access via renewable energy like solar electricity and solar cooling. Actually, this has been a very major problem. In Nigeria, we have this issue of electricity. So it's a very vast stretch of land. And unlike in the US, where many companies are handling the electricity, here, the electricity is being handled by the national government, you know, the federal government. And the government is always very inefficient. So we have a problem whereby we are producing more power than we can even transmit. You know, the transmission lines cannot even take what we have. Also, many of the infrastructures, you know, they are over 50 years old, 40 years old, and you know, there's not been maintenance. You know, so everything is just a huge chunk of problem. So it's created a lot of issues. But recently now, the current administration has been really working on that, and right now they've given states the power to produce, and also they've given individuals, you know, the power to produce. So before it was the government who was controlling everything, and they were very inefficient with that. Now we are having state government being given the power to produce their own electricity, and they supply to the grid and private individuals. But it doesn't really change the problem, because the problem is that the grid bottleneck, and the grid, the transmission lines are still being under the, you know, control of the government. So there's been a lot of fight, you know, of how the government can release that to private individuals who can invest, make their money back, and create more, you know, more sustainable forms of electricity, and make sure that it's accessible to anyone. So this is a problem. So the third one is better cooling technologies and the product at more than fair prices. So remember, I said earlier on that some of these farmers have to rent a space, and the reason why they have to rent the space is because that space, there is something called small generators, you know, which we use in Nigeria. Almost every major house have one. So whoever has, you know, the generator can on his generator to supply cooling in areas that have a little access to electricity. So if we can provide better cooling technologies that wouldn't require much of a, you know, too much electricity, or that wouldn't require, you know, generators, you know, we can be able to do more. So citizens have the power to education and awareness about the problem of improper waste disposal, ensuring individual commitment to resource efficiency and reduction of waste generation, holding the government accountable, which is a very important point, because the citizens and the government, you know, the government are the citizens, you know, or there's a statement that goes, is it that the government are the government in power is the government that the citizen deserves, and that the government is the same with the citizens and vis-a-vis, because the citizens were once the government, and the government will also become the citizens in the future. So holding the government accountable, making citizens to know that, okay, we educating them about the problems of waste disposal, and making sure that they demand this, you know, during the elections and all that. Now we also have the government who have to ensure a good transport network, improving waste disposal method, proper implementation of waste disposal practices, subsidized cooling technologies, and proper clarity as to policy implementation and responsibility. So the potential solutions we have, in summary, we have waste to heat, provision of electricity, improved road infrastructure, better cooling technologies. And these are the criteria we are choosing to solve this problem. So the first one is cost. How expensive would it be for us? The time of implementation. We don't want a solution whereby we want to implement it and we have to spend maybe, let's say, maybe half a century, maybe 50 years, for example. Or ease of access, you know, how easy can it be for us to get this change going, or this solution going? And the fourth one, which is the major one, is can we change it overall? Okay, can we be able to do it? So waste to heat is not for us, because we are trying to tackle the issue of, you know, cutting down on a food wastage. And also provision of electricity. It's not really
Ayomide,
in our power because
just to jump in quickly, you have 2 minutes left of the presentation. So
okay,
if you
yeah,
can skip to the solution, that will be great. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So if we can change it. So here is the solution. So the solution we are bringing now is a solar vapor absorption refrigeration system. So here is how the system works. It works with using ammonia and water, in 2 solutions, and then along with a condenser, an expansion valve, and an evaporator. And using this, we can be able to use solar heat, okay, and not the electricity, the solar heat, and we can be able to convert this solar heat to cooling. So here is everything about solar power cooling technologies. It operates on the principle of utilizing solar energy to power the refrigeration process, the sustainability, the lower operating cost, flexibility also. Remember, our aim is to be able to tackle this in the rural area, so it can operate off-grid and reduce, carbon footprint, as it generates, zero emissions. So the challenges also, here we have them, the technological know-how, and novelty. The technological people don't really know how to use it. So going to tell people, okay, this is it, and even after installing it, they have to be trained, okay, on the maintenance of the system, market disruption, also ability to provide cooling, but doesn't necessarily provide electricity. Most people want both. And it has many components, which leads to higher output. But I highlighted this because actually in modern systems, we have less, of this problem. So the advantages is the lower maintenance costs because there are less moving parts compared to the conventional cooling systems of today. Lower operational costs, can be used in rural areas and have a longer lifetime because virtually we have less moving parts. So usually the parts last longer. So finally, here is the system. So we are using solar heat and passing this through various, thermodynamic components, such as the absorber, and the condenser and the evaporator. We are able to convert this solar heat, to produce cooling, and which will be useful in the rural areas. Thank you very much.